Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Lads and lassies, pull yourself a wee drink and most importantly, pull up that chair because it's time for another episode of the Soul Sessions. But with me today, well, it's the first free-time wrestler to appear on that show. And what a great guest to have that accolade herself, Daisy Jenkins. Welcome back for the third time.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Daisy, I try my best. Obviously, first free-time guest, an accolade. You can add that to your many accomplishments. But obviously, Daisy, you last appeared here on the 21st of August of last year, and it's been, a full calendar year. Yes, time has flown by. So the most important thing I want to ask you is, since that whole last year, how have you achieved and grown as a wrestler since?
Well, I've done a lot in a year. I think every single time I come on a podcast, I talk about how the journey is something that is completely beyond what I would have first thought possible. So I think probably the main things over the last year have just been the growth in confidence, for one, being in new situations, probably more high pressure situations. I've traveled a bit more. So I've added a few more countries onto the flag list on Instagram, which is always fun. I've been part of a theatre show, all to do with wrestling. So I think it's all come at the right time. And I think that's because the biggest growth has been in confidence, which is always something that I talk about. And something that I'm always quite open about in terms of the struggles with it. So yeah, it's been a fantastic year and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. You've done many, many fantastic things, Daisy, indeed. And we will definitely get into that. But one of the big things we must talk about for us, not only as Scottish wrestlers and Scottish fans, was good old WWE bringing over Clash at the Castle, Scotland in the Hydro. And, it was a fun show. But I think before we get into that, we need to talk about a little match you had that weekend. The one where you put up your own tickets. I mean, right. For our fans who may not be aware of this, can you tell us more about this whole situation of you putting up your tickets for Clash at the Castle?
Yeah, so I had a match on Blockbuster against Moxie Malone, and it was in the afternoon of Clash at the Castle. So I'd been to SmackDown the night before. I'd got up, got myself ready for a match, went back through to Glasgow. Match was in the afternoon, and then I was going to Clash at the Castle afterwards. And before the match, I heard that Moxie Malone didn't have tickets. So I thought, well, why not put some stakes on the match? Everybody was really excited. There was the atmosphere there. The fans were great, and they brought the atmosphere that they brought to the Hydro to every other show that was on that weekend. So it was just incredible. But I decided to put my tickets on the line.
That's a risky business there, Daisy.
It was risky. It was super risky because I only got the tickets the Thursday before. So,
Well, indeed, but you came out victorious. Huzzah! The victory
did,
was
and I got to go.
I would love to know your thoughts on the show as well. The first WWE PLE in Scotland as well, and that whole environment. Because obviously, there was the kickoff show that was before SmackDown. Then the whole PLE itself. That experience of those 2 days. What were your thoughts on what WWE brought to Scotland that weekend?
I think it just brought it all closer to home. I mean, I was at Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. I've been to a couple of Raw and SmackDown tapings in the US. And I think Scotland has such a huge wrestling kind of history, I suppose, if you take the people who have made it from Scotland there. I think it's very popular, and you can tell that by the amount of promotions that are regularly running shows. And I think it was a nice reward for everybody. And the atmosphere was probably unmatched to anything that I've experienced. Completely different to Cardiff. Cardiff was great, but it was something else. And I think if I hadn't gone, because I wasn't supposed to go, if I hadn't gone, I would have been really jealous. So for me, It was amazing, and everybody had such a good time. And it was, you would walk through the SECC Centre where they had all the other stuff, so like the kickoff show and everything. And then you would walk through the arena, and you would just see loads of people that you knew. I think like that was the best thing about it, was that everybody that you knew from wrestling, whether that be fans or other wrestlers or people that you just know that like wrestling, like I think I've seen so many people. I even seen you, so it was good for that. It was a really nice atmosphere, and it was a really nice sort of, I think, reward for the fans that we have here. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I totally forgot that was a thing and that happened this year. So thanks for reminding me.
It's a bit of a big year. I mean, obviously you found me next to the bar where I always am. So, I mean, I don't leave that place many too often. But obviously there was a bit of, not might be a wee bit of the controversy with the show, obviously with the ticket prices as well, and how it was so high at the start, obviously then decreased. Your thoughts on obviously WWE's original ticket pricing plans, and if we get another PLE even in the UK, like a SummerSlam or a Rumble or heck even a Mania, do you think that maybe sets an uneasy precedent for some people with the ticket pricing?
Yeah, it completely priced a lot of people out, especially families, which is really what you'd be aiming for. And I'm sure that there was a lot of disappointed families who couldn't spend over £1,000 on a few tickets to go on a day out or a couple of days out with their family. So it certainly priced me out in the beginning. I only managed to go because people had extra tickets. So I didn't know that. I wasn't going to go because it was so expensive and I couldn't justify it. But a couple of days before, I managed to get kind of spare tickets for each one. So that was how I got to go. I think certainly the prices that they came down to, like the day of and the day before, were much more reasonable. But you can't expect people to wait until then. And then there was obviously people who had spent £800 on a ticket, and then that day it was down to, like 200. So it kind of, I don't know what kind of feeling that garners in terms of like people wanting to go again. But I would hope that if there was anything, I mean, I don't know what the AEW tickets were like because I never looked, so I don't know what they're like in comparison. But I would hope that if there was something else in the future, that it would be a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm feeling the burn in my back pocket with the 800 I spent for my 2 tickets. But hey, I got the flip off CM Punk. So
well, you paid £800 for that.
I feel blessed for that moment, and except when Drew McIntyre shared it and I started trending, and it was really, really weird. But digressing on that part, obviously, you mentioned obviously Blockbuster had a shows there. I know ICW had 2 shows as well, CPW and the Freeway show with Valor, Free WL, and Bleeding Gums Wrestling. That whole kind of connectivity of the Scottish scene, and obviously, Power Bro had a show 2 days before on the Thursday.
Yeah.
Just that whole connectivity of the Scottish scene and getting to know that obviously so many shows were out there and getting to shine when WWE came to town. As a Scottish wrestler, it must have been a big sense of pride just to see that unearthing of the scene and just so many wrestlers and shows performing around the whole weekend.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like the atmosphere brought something different. So it wasn't just the same thing as you've been doing. There was new fans and there was a different atmosphere. So it really did bring out something. Well, certainly from my perspective, it's one of my favorite matches I've ever had because it was just the most fun, and the atmosphere in there was just something that I've never experienced. Just because I put my tickets on the line, people were very invested. So hopefully people get more invested in the future if I do like just general wrestling without putting tickets on the line and things like that. But it was good to see so many shows in the area and so much for people to do, during the day and afterwards. And there were some people who went to every single show. And I just found that absolutely incredible. They must not have got very much sleep. So hats off to them, because they're really the people that make wrestlers want to keep doing it and to keep giving everything that they've got. It's people who put that amount of effort to come in and see them. So it was a really nice sort of like moment for like being in the ring, but it was very special to have a match on that weekend in Glasgow in the same location, etc., etc. It was very cool.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, it was a very tiring weekend. Not only from the voice, but I swear I think I tore my suit while trying to put it on one day. I don't know if that's a bad sign for me in this suit. I don't want to lose it. I actually really like it. But not digressing, obviously, back to yourself, Daisy. You've had a hell of a 2024 as well. Obviously, you've hit up just over 12 promotions this year as well, which is, congratulations, 12 promotions. That's a great accolade to have.
Thanks for counting them, because I hadn't.
I'm a good interviewer. I do my research. I just don't put everything all on one page and then say, all right, rock it. Maybe sometimes. I digress from that. I try. But many things you've done, obviously, Valor, Blockbuster, UK Wrestling, Discovery, PPW, Eve, and Wrestle Carnival. Some of those great promotions as well. I definitely want to touch upon Eve. But before that, obviously, Wrestle Carnival, you were down there as well. And that promotion is no longer ongoing at the moment. And that was one of their final shows. Do you feel like a sense of nobility and that pride and sense knowing that for Wrestle Carnival, whatever that company comes to in the future, you were on their last show at this very moment?
Yeah, and it was a really good opportunity for me, and not just more visibility down south, but the opponent as well, because I wrestled someone from the States. So that was the first time that I'd wrestled someone from a different well, no, it's not, but from America anyway, from that side of the world. So that was like super interesting, and it was also intimidating. And however long a drive it was, I think I drove like 7 or 8 hours down the match, and then drove 7 or 8 hours back by myself. So that's where the kind of mental aspect comes in, with that sort of stuff, doing those kind of drives by yourself. But no, it was a good start to the year. I think it was my first match of the year. So to start there, I kind of had to trust that I did get, and I still do, with these sort of like bigger things or things that aren't my sort of usual. So doing stuff down south and traveling and all that sort of stuff, there's a level of anxiety that comes with it in terms of wanting to prove yourself. So with it being the first match of the year and wanting to prove myself, yeah, it was a day. It was a day. But it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. And I think it kind of set me up for how the rest of the year was going to go now, thinking back to it. I'm glad that it started like that, because, as you mean to go on.
Absolutely, indeed, because you talk about obviously doing things more and more builds confidence, and then it leaves an impact on people. And obviously somebody who we know that you've definitely left an impact on is obviously Roxy over at WrestleFest. And obviously she was on this show in our season 4, beginning of episode lot, and she mentioned obviously you, and I know we obviously posted a clip of that talking about yourself and the impact you left on her. And when you saw that clip, and obviously what Roxy expresses and the gratitude towards you as a wrestler and as a a great human being as well, when you see that and knowing that you've left an impact on somebody with their wrestling journey, is it a lot of shock? Is it a lot of pride or anxiety, just knowing that your presence has influenced somebody else's life?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything. Probably pride would be the first one. I think it's super important for me to just be myself when I do things like this. So to have somebody talk about me like that makes me feel very proud to be me, because it's not put on, it's not an act, it's not anything apart from me just being myself. And I think even though I've not really been doing this for that long, I am older than a lot of the girls that I wrestle or that I meet. So although potentially I can't always give wrestling advice, I can give stuff based on my experience. I can certainly give life advice, because I've had plenty of it. So it's something that I kind of carry proudly, is all of that, because all of my life experience has led me to this journey, which I can't be more grateful for. But being able to have an impact on other people because of that makes that even more special. And I think actually that's probably one of the best reasons about doing this. And it's not so much me just doing it with other people. There are plenty of people that I've met in wrestling who do the same to me. Roxy left a very strong, lasting impression on me as well, and it was very much both ways when it comes to that. Not just the first time, but the second time when I went over. When did I go this year? April? Everything seems so far away. Yeah, I think it was April or May. I went this year. So it was really good to go back again, and I'm hoping to be back in the future.
We'll absolutely love to see Daisy Jenkins taking over WrestleFest again. That's going to be stunning to see, and an absolute amazing journey. Obviously, you mentioned the journey down south as well. I know you've done Eve, Attack, and Pro Wrestling Chaos, and obviously Attack, owned by Mr. Mark Andrews himself, who's been on this show. And I know you got to meet Mark as well. He's such a very knowledgeable guy. Obviously, he had the feud ongoing with Michael Oku and Nico Angelo and Riot Cabaret, which ended up leading to him becoming the Riot Cabaret World Champion. For Mark Andrews, getting that chance to meet him and maybe even pick his brain, what do you think that opportunity of meeting Mark, and what are your thoughts on what Mark is doing with Attack?
So Attack is like super special. I'd never really seen much of it before I went down there, or before I started wrestling properly. I knew that there were that it's spoken very highly of by a lot of people, so I'd heard about it. And I'd done a couple of seminars with Mark before. So the first one was quite early on when I was training. So this is where everything's going to muddle up into the same year. I think it was probably, I hadn't debuted yet. So that would have been 2022, start of 2022. I'd done a seminar with him. And the way that he teaches things was really, for me, easy to understand, even though the things could be quite complicated. The way that he broke it down and the way that he talked about body control and things like that is so easy to comprehend that although you might be nervous about doing something that's quite complicated, it's broken down in a way where you could at least try it. If you don't get it, you can practice it, and that's fine. But also, the way that he explains things was like super useful for me, and I've taken a lot from that. So that was at PWR Pro, and I've also done a seminar with him at New Wave Midlands, and I've met him a few other times just through maybe being down in Wales doing some stuff with New Wave or whatever. So getting to speak to many of the people that are down there, you just gain so much from even such a little conversation. So to be on Attack was super special, and I'll keep saying that about everything that you ask me about, because I don't really have any other descriptors that would do it justice. But it was super special. Missile Tour is like one of their biggest shows, I believe. And just like the caliber of people that were on it, the people that were in the match that I was in was just crazy. And one of those moments where it's kind of like, is this really me? Like, is this actually happening? But it's such a great environment down there that, you can only flourish if put into situations like that.
True indeed, obviously. And Mark is truly a great guy, even if the fans were booing with that Riot Cabaret show. I like Mark. Mark's the boy. Oku, he's all right. Master the half crap, but it's Mark Andrews. By going there. But obviously, that whole weekend as well, obviously, there was Pro Wrestling Eve putting on a show with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling as well. And Eve, I've heard it from so many female wrestlers on this show, is very much a beacon for them. Just the environment, the fans, and that place to go where it is an all-female environment. And it's truly a fun one, from Nightshade Singh, and I've seen from Nina Samuels and so many others. And also you wrestled in Eve as well, Daisy. Do you feel like as a female wrestler, Eve truly is a beacon for women's wrestling, not even just in the UK, but maybe worldwide?
Yeah, I would say so. And certainly when I first started training, I think one of the first podcasts I was on, I was asked, what my goals would be just in general. And I'd said to wrestle on Eve. So it's really nice for those things to come true almost, and for it to happen so early on in my career as well. It's something that I didn't expect. So it was a really good experience. The locker room, the atmosphere, the crowd, like everything is so different to anything else, which I think is what makes it special. But I can certainly see now, having watched more of Eve as well, and been part of it for one show, that I can definitely attest to it being what you've described. I'm hoping that in the future I can be back on Eve, because it was such a good experience, and I would welcome another opportunity.
Oof. I mean, that would be fun to see. Would you go straight for that Eve Championship that is held by Nina Samuels?
I don't think you can't just go straight for it. Those girls are working hard. You've got to pay your way.
I don't know. It's that tiny hat. I think it holds all the power. That tiny hat's got to hold all the power, right? Like if you knock that off, you win, right?
We'll need to see if that happens in a match. Just prove it right or wrong.
We need a theory. We really need to test this out. We need some myth busting. The tiny hat of Nina Samuels, but tiny hat debating can go later, obviously. But obviously coming back home as well. One promotion that's really had a lot of change, but a lot of eyes on it is obviously Discovery Wrestling. Taken over by Joe Hendry now, who's really everywhere. He's really everywhere.
Yeah.
And I know obviously you were a part of this new era of Discovery, facing another former guest of the show with Daisy Jenkins, and obviously Debbie Cattell got involved as well.
Yeah.
To be a part of this new era of Discovery, obviously led by Joe, what does it mean to see what Joe's doing for Scottish wrestling, and also just what he's doing worldwide? Because obviously Discovery are even going to Germany as well.
Yeah, it's super exciting, isn't it? It's something that nobody else is doing, which is cool. And Discovery's always kind of been like that. And the cool thing about it is that the essence of Discovery hasn't really changed. So the fans are the same, and like the atmosphere is the same. It's just potentially getting bigger, and there's maybe some new faces on it. But it just goes to show that sometimes change isn't a bad thing, and that you can embrace that and see where you can go with it. I think that it's cool of Joe everything that he's doing, I think, is super commendable and super impressive. And I think to bring that to Scotland, with what he's doing with Discovery and then taking it into Europe and stuff like that, I just think that it's such a great opportunity to build something that's potentially not been done yet. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with it. And hopefully again be back on it at some point. But it's a super cool place, and it's only gonna grow and grow and grow under what we're doing now.
Truly, indeed. You've had some great moments in Discovery as well. And obviously one I really do want to highlight obviously is your women's championship opportunity against the previous champion, Casey.
Yeah.
I remember I was in the crowd for the Portobello Town Hall, and really got me going there thinking you were going to get that championship win, but obviously you sadly didn't. But to have that moment against Casey, who's obviously been such influential for Discovery and obviously the whole UK wrestling scene, that moment in the Portobello Town Hall, the crowd were really behind you as well. Sadly didn't get the win, but just that chance at the championship, was that a really I've made it moment for you as well, just to get that opportunity?
Yeah, and again, it's just similarly to everything that you're going to ask me about. Super special, and really grateful for it happening so early on in my career. Something that I wouldn't have thought was possible. And I respect and look up to Casey a lot. So it was a tough one, because I was super nervous for it, and I probably wasn't as confident as I should have been. And maybe if I was more confident, the outcome would have been different. But I learned a lot from that match, and just the experience in general. So yeah, definitely one of the highlights of my career so far.
It's
Very
definitely a
cool.
highlight of your amazing wrestling career, but you also got a career as a performer, a theatre performer indeed as well. Because we're
Yeah.
obviously going to get on to Mythos Ragnarok as
Mhm.
well. So for our fans who may not be aware of what Mythos is, could you just share with us a quick detail of what Mythos Ragnarok is?
Yeah. So Mythos Ragnarok is a theatre show which retells the Norse myths through professional wrestling. Written by a guy called Ed Gamester, who made it his sort of mission, as it were, to prove how versatile professional wrestlers are and how beautiful the art of professional wrestling is, all weaved into the wonderful stories of Norse mythology. So it's a cast of wrestlers or actors who have wrestled as well. All of the combat is full contact professional wrestling, and it has all of your favorite characters from Norse mythology.
A true fun character is a bunch as well. But obviously, you got to be a part of this performance, but quite quite a proud one for Scottish people as well, because obviously you got to participate in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is a very well-respected arts and theatric festival held in the city of Edinburgh as well. So obviously, I want to obviously know being a part of the Edinburgh Fringe has got to be quite a highlight for you, obviously someone from Scotland. But how did you get into Mythos? What's the story? Who opened that forbidden door for you to cross in and be like, well, I'm here in the world of Norse mythology?
So I was recommended for the specific role that I played by Molly Spartan, because Molly had been, I think she's been part of Mythos Ragnarok since the beginning, so it's still young in its journey as well. So the first time that they performed on the Fringe was 2021. 2021. Yeah. No, 2022 it must have been, because this was the third year that they'd done it. So she'd been part of it from the beginning and had done the Fringe, and I think she'd done Brighton. She's been in Canada with them. So she was asked for recommendations for a particular role, which she recommended myself. I was available. I done a bit of an audition for it, and then I was hired. And then the rest is history. I am fully part of the woodwork.
Very much so indeed, because obviously you played the role of Hela, which is obviously the daughter of Loki. Quite a tragic character, which obviously gets its rewarding end. But I would love to know as well, when you approach this character of Hela and know that it's very different from how you are obviously as a wrestler. You're very cheerful, go lucky, and smiles and everything. And then Hela's like, oh, dark, emo, and depressive, and Everessence on at 2 a.m. sort of kind of character. It's a bit of a character. To know that you had to basically completely 180 yourself for this role, does it feel like such a rewarding tool to now have in your back pocket and transferring to wrestling?
100%. And I think the thing that shocked most people who came to see it, who have seen me wrestle, was the kind of stark difference in that. And it has been something that I've been working on the whole of this year, is versatility, and how I can be different, and how I can react differently in certain situations, and not just be one way, as it were. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's been something that I've been working really hard on. So the fact that this role came up at this time when I've had no experience in acting, no experience in theatre, like none whatsoever. I've only been wrestling for 3 years, and that's all I've got. So it was super interesting for me to prove what I could do in terms of applying what I've learned through wrestling training, and probably some innate natural ability, which my granny always told me that I had. So I'm very pleased that that has been a thing, because she was right. So I'm sure she's looking down and being very proud of that. But it was really important for me to show the versatility that I can do, because I knew it from putting the work in, but nobody else could see it until I was given the opportunity of doing this. And I think that the way that I approached it showed that, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very proud of the work that I put into and the performances that I had. I got to do it 12 times in a row, so you could easily fix bits that you didn't like or change movements and this, that, and the next thing. But Hell was such a important character for me to play, and I related to the character very quickly, which I think is why I put so much effort into it and I thought so much about it. But it came to fruition, and I'm super proud of it, and I'm super pleased that so many people got to see it. And I'm looking forward to the next time that I get to do it as well, because it's become such an important part of me. It's probably the best thing I've ever done. So the fact that wrestling has opened that door for me to do something like this is just beyond anything that I could ever have imagined possible, which I've probably said for the third time already in 30 minutes.
Absolutely, because I mean, obviously the look of Hell as well, it's like, holy shit, this is creepy. This is like Night Terror's Ring sort of thing, with the tattered look, and obviously, and you do like that creepy walk out there. I was like, oh fuck, it's tasty shit. And
Yeah.
there's obviously that image on your Instagram where you're on the Royal Mile just sitting on one of the bollards in the full get up as well, and just that creepy, terrifying, sinister, but also kind of tragic character that Hell truly is. I'd love to know, was there any aspects or influences from the wrestling world or media world you took for building that look and terrifying presence of Hell?
So the look is really down to Mel, who is the costume designer of Mythos, and she has such a wonderful brain. And all of the costumes that you see everyone wear, she's made herself. She's absolutely incredible. She'd be making adjustments throughout the day, but everything in terms of how the characters looked is very much her vision, and it's absolutely beautiful. The presence was certainly me, but I don't know if I really used anyone as inspiration, because I kind of, in the sense of what this show is about and the way that you need to become that character, because it's theatre and it's so close to the crowd, and because it's wrestling as well, you have to be believable in that character. You have to become that character. So I think the presence of it was very much me making sure that I understood who Hell was and what her motivations were, and what her role in the story was, and how she would react to different people, and how she would react in different situations. There wasn't really anything that I could take inspiration from, apart from watching the other girls who have played Hell. So that was super useful to see how they'd portrayed the character, but making it my own also. So the crawl in as the entrance was something that I just came up with in the moment during a little bit of rehearsals because of the walkway that we had. So that was my own little thing that I could add to it, but it certainly enabled me to get into character. The kind of, I suppose, the movement, so the character is more like body language and body movement than it is speaking. There's only a few lines with it, but there's important lines, so you have to deliver them in a certain way, and you have to have 2 different voices potentially and all this sort of stuff. But the body movement was, I think, the closest thing that you can get to is probably what Nikki Cross is doing most recently. So that's probably the only inspirations that I took. It was very much, the inspiration comes from internal to Mythos, speaking to the rest of the cast, speaking to the person who wrote it, speaking to the person who made the costumes, and kind of trying to feel it out from there. So it's a super interesting journey with it, because it's trying to apply wrestling training to a completely different situation.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a completely different form of media as well, and obviously it's very seeing with your eyes, and obviously the movement of the language as well is very important. But the crowds as well, were quite different, obviously, because they're not generally wrestling crowds. They're just generally media and theatre fans as well. Performing for that type of fan base as well, obviously with what comes with the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, was there any hesitation for it? Do you think it would have translated well? But obviously, I've been there twice, and everybody there was loving it, cheering for it, and really getting involved and invested in the show as well. So those crowds at the Fringe, is it like with how wrestling, sometimes you have to go to a holiday park and perform for that kind of fans, or is it the hardcores or even the casuals? Just your thoughts on performing for that type of fan base at the Fringe Festival.
Yeah, it's actually it's a really interesting question, and the biggest thing about it was that it would be a mix. You would definitely have wrestling fans in there every night, and you would definitely have theatre fans in there every night, and then you would definitely have people that had no idea what they were coming to see. They just got told that they should go and see it. So I think the structure of the show and the way that it's written will translate to anybody. I think, there's been a couple of people that have said that they didn't like it, but on the whole, people rave about it. People say how they've never seen wrestling before, but then they were jumping up out of their seats, and they were just automatically cheering along or booing because the way that it's written and the way that it's performed just makes you feel like that's what you should do in this moment. So it's a really incredible thing what Ed has done in terms of the way that he's written it. Having it performed by professional wrestlers means that you have people who can improvise with the crowd. We're used to being in front of a crowd, and we're used to not knowing what a crowd's going to react to, and what, something that they react to might not be what you thought they would, and something the other way around, so it's super interesting to think about it in that way, especially the very busy days. So the days where we had between 400 and 500 people, you would have a mix of, there's definitely wrestling fans in here because they're chanting for Loki in the way that you would chant a wrestler. And you definitely have theatre fans in here because they're hissing at Balder because he's done something that they don't like. So it was really interesting for me, coming off the back of, and like you just mentioned, doing some camp shows. So doing holiday camp wrestling shows in the UK is, it's an institution in itself. William Regal talks about it a lot, and a lot of some of the most famous wrestlers and best wrestlers in the world have done runs on the holiday camps in the UK. So to get to do something like that this year has been an experience as well, an experience that I probably needed to have before going into this. So again, thinking about the timing of where all these opportunities come from, to me, sometimes I feel as though really can't ignore what everything happens for a reason saying, because it just does. The order in which things have happened and the way that things fall into place is by no means a coincidence. It's almost like it's written in the stars. But certainly, if you were to relate the crowd that we got at Mythos to a wrestling crowd, that would be the crowd that it would be. It would be people who don't usually watch wrestling, but as soon as they sit down and watch it, they love it.
Truly as well. I remember there was moments in that show where Molly Spartan takes Loki out and has been saying people don't make the tag and all that, and you can tell that was a wink to some of the wrestling fans as well. But obviously I know you all built a bond as well, because I know you got tattoos to celebrate all, if I'm correct.
Sorry, I don't even really mean to show that there, but yes. It's mine.
Fascinating. It just truly shows the bond that you've all built for this whole performance, and it just really brings people all together. And I hope to see Mythos obviously return in the future. But let's say, Daisy, you were given the casting chair and you had to cast some people from PWR in Mythos. Who from Power Pro would you cast in the next obviously turnaround of Mythos Ragnarok at the Fringe Festival?
So I can only pick Power Pro people.
All right. I'll be fair. Scottish wrestling scene.
Okay. Well, I can kind of keep it towards Power Pro, but I might need to go outside for a couple. But we've actually had this conversation already. So, I would be Hell. Mm-hmm. Molly Spartan would be Gullveig still. So Odin and Loki are super difficult. But Zachary Swift, potentially, as Odin,
Ooh.
right? Loki is a tough one. I'll need to come back to that. Balder, there's a few people. But someone like Ross Hunter or Robert Balfour would be a good Balder. Thor, potentially Andy Roberts, but also either of the Meat Factory, John Kerr or Craig Berry. You've got Jormungandr, Surt, and Fenrir, and Boar. They usually get, so two each of those usually get played by the same person because they're not in the same scenes. But you need big, tall people for that. So Hunter Sampson and Tommy Cartel, I would go for them. We might as well just keep it in Power Pro because I'm managing to do it. Freya would then become Kate Calloway. And who have I got left? Have I said everyone? Oh, Loki.
I mean, come on, Frank Gallo.
Frank Gallo. There we go. We did it.
We did it. Look at that. You're a wrestler, a theater performer, and now a director. Look at that. You got all the accolades. That's phenomenal. Obviously, but obviously you mentioned obviously the Power Pro guys, and obviously they've achieved quite a lot since you've last been on. Obviously, Frank Gallo became the heavyweight champion for Power Pro. Ross Hunter and Robert Balfour are now the tag team champions. To see these three lads, obviously they've worked very, very hard for these opportunities and now become inaugural champions for Power Pro. What do you think that will mean for the future of these divisions? Obviously, the heavyweight division and the tag team division, with Frank, Robert, and Ross leading these divisions.
It's a hard question, not because because I've not really thought about it before, but I think it gives the opportunity for more people to come in. Now that we've got the inaugural champions, they can call out whoever they want, right? So it's only going to get bigger and better from there. And I think the guys themselves will grow as wrestlers. And I think, having a championship takes you to the next level just innately. So the difference that you can see in them, all three of them already, is like night and day. It's just incredible. It's incredible to watch. It's incredible to be a part of. And especially with the next shows coming up, I don't know when this is going out and how much has been announced, but certainly the championship matches are going to be must-watch matches. And I think it gives the guys a real opportunity to show how hard they've been working and how good they are. And that's what I'm most excited about for them.
Truly indeed. Both of them all three of them are going to get a great opportunity, obviously, at Power Pro Unforgiven at St. Andrews, with obviously the Power against Arcade Violence for the Tag Team Championships, and Frank Gallo will be defending his championship against Rampage Brown. An exceptional, these three lads will be an exceptional matchups for all of them. But there is another show as well there, Daisy, a sequel. And some say the sequel is the best part. It's better than the original, which will obviously be Truth or Dare 2. And obviously Truth or Dare happened last year, I believe, under the FPWA banner, and now this will be the first one under the Power Pro banner, which is great to see the evolution of that. But obviously, last year's one was quite something. It was randomized; anyone could show up. There was James Ellis versus Frank Gallo in a something match. I can't even remember because there were 16,000 rules.
Something metal power station memorial match.
Frank, mate, please just put something on. Digressing on that point as well, but obviously we don't know obviously people that are announced for this. It is very randomized. It's chance. Things can happen, things cannot happen. People could be announced but not decided. It all becomes down to the wheel itself, that Truth or Dare aspect. Daisy, going into obviously Truth or Dare 2, if the wheel lands on yourself, where do you think you could go with that kind of opportunity? It could land on somebody like Hunter Sampson. It could land on somebody like Kate Calloway. There's many newcomers in Power Pro as well. It could be a new chance for somebody as well. Or heck, it could be Danny Luna coming back for another matchup with yourself. The wheel of obviously Truth or Dare, the excitement must be there for you as well to know that, yeah, this is a randomized choice for myself.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking as well, because you have to prepare for everything. But I think regardless of who it comes out as, I think what I proved the last time is that I can prevail even when you think that the odds are so stacked against me. I got drawn into the Fatal Five-Way that had Tommy Cartel, Hunter Sampson, Talon Jr., and Duke Cannon. If you were to look at that matchup, you would not think that little Daisy Jenkins would come out on top and be the hardest man in Fife, but that's what happened. So there's a lot of confidence going into this because of what I managed the last time, and there's no reason why I can't do it again. Without knowing what the stipulations are, although I have a feeling that there's an announcement coming, which I would have a big interest in. I would hope that if I was drawn in a certain type of match, that I would be working towards that big announcement.
Secrets, folks. Sadly, the Soul Session does not get the exclusives. We are still working our way. I'm building up the nectar points, and I will eventually cash them in for an opportunity of an exclusive. But I guess I must spend more money for those nectar points. But obviously, as well, Daisy, we saw with Frank and James Ellis that Steelworks match obviously was added into it. I want to know, say if you got to add to the Truth or Dare wheel of some match types, 3 match types you would like to add in for that opportunity, not even for yourself. It could be for someone like Kate Calloway, it could be someone for like Frank Gallo, or even Andy Roberts. Which 3 match types would you add in for the chance of your colleagues to participate in?
I want to see another Methil Power Station Memorial match.
Oh.
I want to see another one of them. Other matches. So, if we think about matches that we've never had before, we've got a lumberjack match. There could be a TLC match, a strap match, something a little bit different. We've had a rounds match before, but we've never had a 2 out of 3 falls match before. We've never had a falls count anywhere match. So there's loads of opportunity for there to be the first ever of something in Power Pro history. So it's super exciting to see what's going to come out. I've got no idea what the stipulations are going to be. I've got an idea of a couple, but it depends what the wheel comes out as and whether they can happen or not.
Yeah, surprises. It's truly surprises. We never know what will end up happening when that wheel lands on Truth or Dare, but it's truly just shows the evolution of oneself. And I know obviously, Daisy, you spoke about evolution and building yourself as well, whether it's through your talents as a wrestler, and obviously the fear performance, but obviously presenting yourself as a person as well. And I know obviously you've changed quite a few gears this year as well. You know, you've got new wrestling gear, you've had the whole jacket one as well, you've had black ones as well, and you've always experimented with new gear type. Obviously there's the very classic black singlet with the white Daisy Jenkins logo on it as well. To experiment yourself with new types of wrestling gear, does it really make you want to try more wrestling gears, or is there a gear that you particularly right now want to set on as the main Daisy Jenkins gear?
Yeah, I mean, I found it quite difficult, to be honest, because the original gear that I had is my favorite. It always will be, because it was my first ever. I think that it makes me look different. There's nobody else that really has that. It was very special to me because it was based on a gear that Sensational Sherry wore, and it was designed specifically for me. So I'll always hold that close to my heart, and I do enjoy wearing it. It's very comfy also. So, you know, when you don't want to have to think about anything else, it's the one to go for. Also, in introducing myself to new promotions and new crowds, I will tend to wear that one because it's a little bit more memorable than just my black gear. Once I'm kind of once I'm more regular in places, I'll start playing about with it. So I've got the black gear, which is mostly for special occasions, or if I'm feeling a little bit more aggressive than usual, I'll wear that one. And then I've got the new one with the flames on it, which I really like because, again, nobody else has really got anything like that. It's kind of loosely based on Alundra Blaze's fire gear, which is really what I wanted. And I've not been able to find a gear maker who is available to make me one, but I found that one online. So the fact that it fits so well and I can wrestle in it is a blessing because it didn't cost me very much. But I do enjoy kind of trying out new things and looking different. I've not really settled on what I feel like my look is. I'm still super new to this, so I think I've got plenty of time. I think it's okay that I've not settled on what my look's going to be. I'm just trying out different things and seeing what sticks. But I do like all of the gear that I've had so far. They're kind of like an evolution of confidence, and it kind of like the evolution of how I feel in myself. So it's nice.
Good. An evolution and showing personal growth, not only just representative of how you are in the ring, but the visual representation of your gear. It's quite creative and a good way to do it. Obviously, you've been doing so many great things this year we talked about as well, but obviously something I do need to bring up as well. Obviously, you're going to be at ICW Bard, VIP early entry, steel cage match against Angel Hayes.
Yes.
Daisy, what are you thinking? Steel cage match?
I don't know. I've got to try it. I've got to do it. You've just got to throw yourself into these things. You can't be scared of it. That's what I'm telling myself.
Steel cage, though. It's
Steel cage. It's a steel cage. Yeah. But me and Angel have wrestled each other so much this year. And we've also tagged together. So if I'm going to go in the cage with anyone, at least going in with someone that I know pretty well and I know what to expect, and it's the same the other way around, showing them what to expect from me. So let's add a steel cage and see what happens with that.
You got to just do one thing for me. Don't make it a kennel in a hell match, because Hunter Sampson was trying to start that, and that's just a bad idea. Look, Al Snow Big Boss Man did in the 90s. I don't need Hunter trying to bring it back. I don't need you to bring it back. It's very bad. Give me a migraine. It was a terrible match. Steel cage. Why, Daisy? Why the steel cage? Oh, it's gonna be.
A few people might be shocked by the announcement. So there is a bit of proving yourself as well. Because I think like the way that I am as a person and as a wrestler, people maybe wouldn't expect me to do a steel cage match. Maybe just as much as they didn't expect for me to be in a theatre show. So, you know, do things that are outside your comfort zone.
Next, we're going to see you against Nick Gage or something like that. And it's like, that. There we go. Now you've really jumped the shark.
Not sure.
I think that's just truly the joy of the Scottish wrestling scene in general, is that it's so diverse and, as I always describe it, a pick and mix. And in general wrestling, you could go to one promotion, see one thing, you could go to another, see another thing, and that true, vibrant, and fun aspect of it is just truly unique. And obviously, Daisy, it's crazy to say this as well, we're nearly the end of 2024.
I know.
And it'll be 2025 soon.
Crazy,
to know going into that new year, we've obviously talked about evolution, and you are obviously the first three-time wrestler on the show. Congratulations again. 2025, I'm sure is it a lot of the same, just continue to do new things and prove yourself, or is there something really, really in particular you want to achieve in 2025?
There's a bit of both. I try to set goals, and then they happen so quickly that I then feel like I'm running away from myself, right? Or if I'm working towards a goal and there's just no way that it could happen, I don't want to be disappointed, right? So I understand like the importance of having goals, but I don't focus on them so much that if they weren't to happen, that it would upset me. So the main goal that I have is just to try my best, have fun, and do as much as I possibly can. And because I focus on that and trying to be the best version of myself, not just for myself, but for everybody around me as well, wonderful things happen at the right time. So all of the things that I've achieved this year, I would never have put them as a goal because I wouldn't have even thought that they were possible. So if I'd put them as a goal, maybe I would have pigeonholed myself into one direction or another. But I feel like leaving myself open leaves me open to any opportunity that can come my way. And it's been such a wonderful journey to approach it like that, especially with being the kind of person that I am. I'm usually very anxious and stressed about things, and I focus on things and I hyper focus on things. And if things weren't going the way that I used to be, if things weren't going my way, I'd get upset about it. Whereas now, like I'm very happy, trusting the process and just getting my head down, working hard, being a nice person, doing good at wrestling or as best that I can, trying to learn as much as possible. And whatever will come to me will come to me, and whatever is for me will be for me. The one thing that I will set a goal on is that I feel like it's time for Daisy Jenkins to have a championship at some point.
Oh boy, Daisy! I tell you what, it's been a crazy journey because obviously you are the first free-time guest of this show, but it's also been 3 years technically as well since your first appearance on this show. You appeared your second appearance last year, and then your first the year before that. And generally, from myself, I do just want to say thank you as well because you have obviously led the door open for me with PWR Pro and generally so many other things, and it just shows that growth is truly fascinating, and obviously as well for PWR Pro because obviously Unforgiven. Saturday, September 7th at St. Andrews Town Hall, and then Sunday, September the 8th, will be Truth or Dare 2 at the Truth nightclub in Leven. Just to wrap up this, your third time on the show as well, PWR Pro's gone to St. Andrews, which is outside of Leven. Where else in the future would you like to see PWR Pro branch out towards?
It's an interesting question. I think we need to keep doing what we're doing. We need to continue to build Leven. You've been there yourself. You know what the atmosphere is like. We need to trial it somewhere else. And St. Andrews is somewhere that hasn't had wrestling for a very long time. So it's either going to be welcomed with open arms or people aren't going to be interested. So we need to make sure that we put on a good show, which it will be. It will be incredible. I mean, the fact that we have Rampage Brown versus Frank Gallo just goes to show. We've also had, I think, just before I came on here, Andy Roberts versus Tommy Cartel was announced. We've got the Power versus Arcade Violence. It's already shaping up to be a great show. The interesting thing about that question is that PWR Pro travels all up and down the country working with Mega Slam. So it's interesting because we are kind of doing that and branching out and going all across the UK. But PWR Pro as a brand, I think, needs to stay in Fife for a bit and see what happens. We're doing good, and we've got such a loyal fan base, and people come back every single time. I think we should just see how special we can do it and what we can build from there.
Absolutely. Build the homestead first, and then when it's ready to leave home, go out and conquer the world, as some say. But well, Daisy Jenkins, first free-time guest of the show, thank you for coming back here on the Soul Sessions. And folks, obviously, Hey, always appreciate it. And Julie, what you've done for this show is amazing in itself. It should be an accolade. It should be on your Cage Match profile, but I don't have editing access for that. But
You're going to make me cry.
I know the drink, it does that. I know I get all emotional and mushy, but it's not. This suit is actually compressing me so much. Oh God, I need to lose weight. But besides on that point as well, Daisy, thank you for obviously coming back on the Soul Sessions. And folks, remember to check out the PWR Pro Instagram for these 2 upcoming shows. But of course, down below in the description will be Daisy Jenkins' Instagram, where you can click on that, follow her journey. And when she does get that championship, you can say you were there and you saw the post and you liked it and you shared it on your social medias. Well, folks, finish up your pints, put your chairs away, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Soul Sessions.